We're going to start off with Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. Book of Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Hashem, Hamashiach Yahushai, giving thanks to the Heavenly Father by Him. All praises to the Heavenly Father by Hashem, Hamashiach Yahushai. And during these times, man, we are watching these news briefings. We're watching these news updates. They keep reminding our people to quarantine themselves from just everybody, from those who may be ill or even ourselves from other people. They're telling people to quarantine themselves 7 days. Then it went from 7 days to 14 days. Now it's 21 days. They keep changing this quarantine, these rules of the quarantine, because of the way it's spreading on this earth. So where did they get these quarantine instructions? Where did it originate from? How do we get this stuff? You know, this nation has been based on biblical principles from day one. Our law explicitly expresses how we are to treat illnesses. All throughout the scriptures, that's what it talks about, how we treat illnesses. And so let's see where they get this from. Let's go to Exodus chapter 15, verse 26. Exodus 15, 26. There's a lot of people who don't even know what quarantine means. That's why you still see people going and coming. Stores that bringing new restrictions on how many people could come in as a family into their stores, because people are taking it as a luxury day just to walk and just to get out the house and go to and fro within the store. Due to that, stores such as Costco, Sam's Club, CVS, Walgreens, Home Depot are putting restrictions on how many people could enter a store because of the spread of this contagion, this coronavirus. So they say it is. They say it's coronavirus. It could possibly be something else. All we know is that it's airborne and people are dying. And we should be paying attention to not just the infections, but the places where the deaths are being taken place. Those are the most contagious areas where the deaths are present. The more deaths, those are the places you want to stay away from. Let's go look at Exodus chapter 15, verse 26, and it reads, "And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Most High thy power, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon you, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Most High that healeth thee." See that? So he heals us, and he said he'll put none of these diseases on us if we just keep his commandments. There used to be an old show that used to come on when I was a child, and a lot of you on this conference call probably remember it. It was called I Dream of Jeannie. Y'all remember that? It was a show called I Dream of Jeannie. And the major was a general, and he stumbled upon this genie lamp, and when he rubbed it, the genie came out. And the first thing the genie said was, "Your wish is my command. Whatever you desire, whatever you command me to do, I will give it to you." And so he would ask for something, and she would wink her nose or something, or bounce her head, and it would show up. But you have to understand something about that show is she kept the commands of the major. Whatever he desired her to do, she did it. And so the Most High is similar to that. He's given us commandments. We are to follow his commandments exactly how he gives it to us. He says, follow my commandment. We are to also keep the commandments. Verse 27, "And they came to Edom, where were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters." Understand, when the children of Israel went through the wilderness, they didn't know where they were going. They didn't have a map. They didn't have GPS. They didn't have the Waze app. They were just walking through the wilderness, and it was uncharted territory for the Israelites. They had another way to get to the land of the Mediterranean area. They went by the way of the kings prior to that. They didn't have to go through the sea. So the Most High took them through the sea, so they couldn't go back the old way. They couldn't go back to Egypt if they complained. They had to continue to go forward and follow him. They had to trust on him. So by doing that, they began to murmur and complain and stop trusting in him. And this is where problems happen. And this is where we are today. We are today in uncharted territories. And a lot of us don't know which way to go. The Most High wants us to depend on him during these times. And so we have to put our mind into the scriptures and do our diligent studies in the word of the Most High. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. He wants us to lean on him and no one else. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that the Most High thy power shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he swore unto thy fathers. And he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless your fruit, the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine and thine oil, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep in the land which he swore unto thy fathers to give thee. So he's telling us he'll do all this stuff for us only if we listen to him, only if we keep his commandments. That's all he's telling us. In the book of the Apocrypha, let's go to Sirach chapter 34. Let's go to Sirach 34 and let's read Sirach 34 and verse 1. And it reads, the hopes of men void of understanding are vain and false, and dreams lift up fools. All right? Kind of dreams. The American dream can lift up a man to think that he has reached the American dream, that he's above everybody else, which brings a form of pride. It says, whoso regardeth dreams is like him that catcheth at a shadow and followeth after a wind. Because when you receive all those benefits after you reach that dream that you've always dreamed about, if you get there and you don't have the Most High, what is it all for? You lose your whole soul. So a lot of brothers and sisters who are in the world who have achieved great things are losing their soul. There's a lot of people dying right now. A lot of celebrities are dying right now. A lot of celebrities, a lot of musicians that we all know are dying right now. And they're dying like days after each other. Whatever it is, if it's not the coronavirus, if it's something else that they're not telling us that's airborne, it's killing our people. It's killing everybody. Everybody. Those who have gold and those who do not have gold and silver. So we are to lean on him. This is a dream to a lot of people just by this thing happening. It's a nightmare to a lot of people. Verse 3. The vision of dreams is the resemblance of one thing to another, even as the likeness of a face to face. Of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed? What can you get out of somebody who's telling you about what's going to happen? And from that thing which is false, what truth can come? They've been lying to us the whole time we've been in this place, and we are to believe them now? You know, the scriptures talk about that. Woe unto you who go down to Egypt to seek for help from them. And notice, this is not when you're sleeping having dreams. This is talking about what you dream about. And everybody has a dream. Everybody wants to be something in this world. Everybody wants something. If you ask anybody on the streets, what do you want to achieve in life? They'll give you a dream. They'll tell you their dream. Let's go to Psalms chapter 73. The book of Psalms, 73 verse 20. 73 verse 20. It says here, as a dream, when one awaketh, what are you going to awaken to? You're going to awaken to the truth. You're going to awaken to the truth. As a dream, when one awaketh, when you wake up out of that sleep, you've been sleeping, you ain't been paying attention to the truth. So, O power, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Now you see all the wickedness clearly what's going on in the world. You're despising all of Esau's wickedness, all his science. You're despising it. You're seeing that he's been lying to us all along. You know what I'm saying? So, as a dream, we're going to despise their wickedness when we awaken. Let's go to Psalms 126 and 1. Psalms 126 and 1. We're quarantining ourselves from this wickedness. You understand? It's a form of quarantining. Psalms 126 verse 1. When the Most High turned again the captivity of Zion, who were like them that dream. Who is the them? We were dreaming like our enemy. We were dreaming about this American dream, trying to get what they got. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue was singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Most High have done great things for them. What is that talking about? It's us coming into our dream. What is our dream? That the Most High will prevail. He'll come back on the earth and redeem us. That's our dream. We're going to be smiling, laughing, and rejoicing when he comes back. We're going to be like, there's a new world coming. We don't have to deal with this world. It's going to be 2 Ezra 6 and 9. But the end of the world is Esau, and the beginning of it is Jacob. We're going to be rejoicing. Verse 3, the Most High have done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O power, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. We're going to come back rejoicing. We're going to be happy. You know, but right now, this is us today. Let's go to Job, book of Job, chapter 10, verse 1. This is how a lot of us feel today. My soul is weary of my life. I will leave my complaint upon myself. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say unto my power, do not condemn me. Show me wherefore thou contendest with me. That's what a lot of people are doing right now. They're weary. Like, why did I catch this plague? Why am I around all these plagues? I used to wake up happy, and now I'm waking up saying, wow, I thought that was a bad dream, but I'm still living during this reality of this plague being here, this contagion still in the earth. I turn on the news and I don't hear nothing different but the contagion. That's where a lot of our people are today. A lot of people are in mourning. They can't go out and work out like they used to. They can't go to the gyms. The gyms are shut down. College players, they can't work out no more. You know, everything has stopped. It's just like that scripture I read a couple Sabbaths ago in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Most High shutting everything down. You know, it didn't take the Most High much. He didn't have to bring storms and everything to destroy this man. All he had to do was send forth a plague. You know what I mean? Let's go to Proverbs 20 and 24. And a lot of brothers are saying, well, they patented this a long time ago. They knew they was going to release. Is this chemical warfare? Yes, chemical warfare. But you know what? The Most High's hand is involved in it. It's just like when brothers be saying they're going to shoot ICBM missiles over here. And the Most High is going to put his spirit in the ICBM missile. It's the same thing. The Most High is in control of it. He allowed it. Proverbs 20 and 24. Man's goings are the Most High. How can a man then understand his own way? How you going to understand your own way? Everything you do is of the Most High. If you go against the Most High, he's going to send evil on you. If you go with the Most High, he's going to send blessings upon you. So man's goings are of the Lord. If he creates a chemical disease to take white people out, if the people are doing righteousness, that disease is not going to affect them. It's going to bounce off. It ain't going to never take effect. The angel's going to put it to rest. But if the people are doing evil, the plague is going to just spread. You see, it's already attacking a lot of people. A lot of homosexuals are dying. I don't know if y'all know it. At least that's what CNN is airing. I'm seeing a lot of homosexuals on CNN being aired that they're dying with their husbands and their wives, men and women. This is plaguing Sodom and Egypt. That's what I call it. Mystery Babylon. It's plague in this place. Hallelujah. Let's go to Lamentations chapter 4 and 22. Lamentations 4 and 22. It reads, "The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion." He said, you know what? You guys went through your curses in Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to slowly remove my hand off of you, and I'm going to take those plagues and put them on everybody else. That's what he said in Leviticus 26. He's going to reverse it. Verse 22, "He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." Well, who is he talking to? The daughters. When he says daughter of Edom, he's talking about future generations of Edom. When he says the daughter of Babylon, we all know there was a Babylon before. When he says daughter, that means future generations of Babylon. Mystery Babylon, which is America, which all these preachers say that America is not in the Bible. This is the most powerfulest place in the world, America. And it's not in the Bible. Every kingdom that we've served captivity has been in the most powerful kingdoms throughout history. And you want to say that the Israelites are not in existence today? Where do you think they are? Right here in America. Serving captivity again. The poorest of the poorest. Some of us have money, some of us don't. Just like in Egypt, just like in Rome, just like in Greece, Assyria. All those places, we are doing the same thing. Let's go to Job chapter 20, verse 27. So destruction is coming on Edom. And I'm touching on this stuff because to quarantine ourselves, we got to know who's the enemy. We got to know what type of destruction is coming to move ourselves away from it. Because that's what quarantine means, to separate yourself from the illnesses. Job 20 and 27, it says, "The heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him." Who? Esau. The earth is going to rise up against him. All right. "The increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath." So it's saying even the increase of his house. He's losing money right now. A lot of people losing money. This is a money war going on. Y'all don't see what's going on in the world? Donald Trump just provided this stimulus package to inflate the dollar. He's going to give all these Americans $1,200 if you got a family, a little bit more. He's inflating the dollar. Why? He's trying to crush all other countries. He's trying to crush Saudi Arabia because of the lowering of oil prices. By raising the money here, raises money in all other countries. It makes their money less than $1. All right? And so it's a money war. Russia arrested the Saudi prince's brothers. Why did they get arrested? It's a money ploy. Pissed him off. He turned around and dropped the gas prices. Just like that. So we can mess up Russia's economy. It's a big game. Everything is centered around the American dollar and oil. While that's going on, we over here fighting this contagion, not even paying attention to it. That's what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody's saying something else is going on. Yeah, that's what's going on. Read the paper. That's what's going on, a money ploy. Verse 29. This is the portion of a wicked man from the Most High, and a heritage appointed unto him by the Most High. So all of these things are going to happen to the wicked. You know, the heavens is going to expose his guilt. The earth is going to rise up against him. Makes me think about Isaiah 14. Let's go to Isaiah 14. Now, Isaiah 14, if y'all don't know what Isaiah 14 is about, it's about the redemption of Israel. It's about what's going to happen to the kingdom that has us in captivity. A lot of people read this and think it's Satan falling from heaven, but it's not talking about Satan falling from the sky. It's talking about the rulers on this earth, an incarnate of Satan. 4, let's go to 4. It says, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Most High has broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smite the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He constantly make us work. We're working hard. We're working overtime. We're giving a third of our money back to the government. And then they come back and taxes later. That's one way of that continual stroke. Another way is putting us in jail to stimulate the mortgage companies. All types of ways this continual stroke starts. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Like Brother Anas said, he said over in San Francisco, he said, man, the Pacific Ocean, I've never seen it this color before. He said, it's light blue, because before the Pacific, the beach area was dark water, dark, muddy looking water. But since this plague has hit, nobody has been able to surf or go out there and fish in certain charted waters. Well, that water is looking blue again. It's almost like it's restoring itself for the first time. There's never been blue like over in Florida or Miami, the way that water looks, all clear. But the earth is restoring itself. Animals are at rest right now. Trees are at rest right now. Mountain lions. You got to remember, this is birth season. Hunting season has stopped. Everything's at rest right now. Everything's restoring itself. It says the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee. Even the trees are rejoicing. And the cedars of Lebanon. Why is the trees rejoicing? Because they're stopped building. Trees are like, man, no feathers or no axes are coming up against me now. I could grow. I could stretch out my limbs. I could bud. And I get cut down. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fetter, meaning the axe, is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. Talking about these people, Esau, the Edomites. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. Who are the chief ones of the earth? The presidents, the kings, the governors. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Because, 100 years ago, the president could tell you whatever because people wasn't educated like today. And people go for it. Whatever he said, he was like, okay, he must know what he's talking about. Now people are educated. You got Google, you got the internet. People are reading up on things. The president just can't tell us anything anymore and think we're going to fly with it. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and thy noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? That's not talking about Satan, that's talking about his minions. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? How did they weaken the nations? With their policies, with their embargoes, with their war, right? They put them in fear. Have their Navy ships all in their oceans. Japan been trying to get rid of American Navy ships forever. And they won't leave. Verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mountain of the congregation in the sides of the north. How do we know who this is talking about when he says he will ascend into heaven? Let's go to Obadiah. Let's find out. How do we know? How can we figure out who he's talking about? The book of Obadiah, we'll start at verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 1. It reads, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Most High concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Most High, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Who dwelt up in the Caucasus Mountains? The Edomites. Right? You look at these towers. Where are they at now? The choicest houses. If you go to Arizona, you go to Colorado, you go in these mountains, guess who's living up in those mountains? Edomites. It ain't no Mexicans or nothing up in there. Ain't no blacks up in those houses. We all down in the flatlands. Ain't no Puerto Ricans up there. Haitians. The choicest pieces are up in the mountains. Whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Most High. He said, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. When they landed on the moon, they said the eagle has landed. In 1960-something, 1970-something, that's what they said. The eagle has landed. That began their downfall right there. They started to go down. The golden years of America had ceased once that happened. They reached their pinnacle. If these came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? Don't they take everything? Don't they patent everything? You can't pull over in the city of Napa and just pull grapes off the vine without them saying, warning, trespassing on their signs. You're not even supposed to trespass over there. Grapes could be hanging over the doggone fence, and you can't even grab them. If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Talking about us. We'll leave some grapes for somebody that's poor. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hid things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Oh, hear that? I could go on, but we're going to go back to what we were originally supposed to be talking about because I feel myself drifting. But this is all part of separating ourselves. When he says, come out of her, my people, that's what he meant in Revelation 18:4. Come out of her, my people, out of all the ways of Babylon. Let's go back to Romans 9:6, and let's get back to the subject of the matter. The book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 6. The book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 6. And it reads, not as though the word of the Most High have taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. What is he saying here? All the people that you consider Israel are not truly spiritual people. All Israel, not Israel. Some of Israel wicked as hell. Some of Israel are homosexuals and can't stand the scriptures. They don't want to see you even with a woman with a man. They despise families. All Israel, not Israel. You have to be careful who you push the truth on. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes. You have to be careful of your surroundings. But all Israel, not Israel. You know, to be a church, you all have to be a part of one body. All Israel aren't part of that one body. So we all know who the church is. The church is the Israelites. It's a people. Okay? That's who the church is. It's a people. You want the precept? Acts chapter 7, verse 38. The church was in the wilderness. They didn't have a building. It was the people. The basic principles of quarantine is to protect the body from contagious diseases. Quarantine is a basic principle and remedy to preserve the church from a congregation or a contagion disease. That's how you preserve the church. That's how you preserve the people. So there's a spiritual quarantine, and then there's a physical one. Here's a spiritual one. Romans 16, verse 17. Here's a spiritual quarantine. Because you got some brothers who come into the truth or be halfway in the truth, and they'll believe in the flat earth theory. They'll believe in all kinds of crazy doctrines. They'll just tell you that you can smoke weed. You know, that the Rasta man smokes weed. He believes in the Bible. If we all had to follow the Rastafarian, we'd all be dead. Smoking weed and ganja. Romans chapter 16. Salute one another with an holy kiss. The churches of Hamashiach salute you. I'm at 16, going into 17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. You see that? Avoid them. He's telling you, that's a command. For they that are such serve not our power, Hamashiach Yahushua. They believe in everything else. He says, avoid them. But their own belly, their own mind, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. See that? Some of them talk well. Y'all ever seen Polite? That brother could talk his butt off. He knows a lot. But he can deceive you from following the truth. Those who are simple. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that got a good talking game, but they could all deceive you. All these motivators and promoters, they could deceive you from the truth because they sound good. They know what they're saying. Their words fall in line. They could deceive you. Most High says, avoid them. That's a spiritual quarantine, staying away from people like that. I want to give you an example of a spiritual quarantine. Let's go to Kings, 2 Kings chapter 5. How many of y'all know the story of Naaman, who was a leper that was cured of his disease? How many of y'all heard of that story? 2 Kings chapter 5. Now he was cured. So we had some powerful prophets, and we had Hamashiach Yahushua. Out of all the prophets that I could think of, only Elijah the prophet healed people of their sicknesses. Elisha healed people of their leprosy and turned around, and the Most High allowed him to put leprosy on people. Okay? Put the disease on people. The only other one like that was Hamashiach Yahushua. He walked around lepers and cured lepers, something that's contagious. You have to think about that during these times. If all our people are contagious, if we had that faith that they had, can you imagine what we could do? Can you imagine the things we could do? You have to understand, Elijah, the prophet, his faith was so great, the Most High allowed him to cast fireballs down on his enemies from the heaven. That's some serious faith, man. Serious faith. We haven't even tapped into our spirit yet. We haven't tapped in. We don't really know what we could do. Imagine casting fireballs from the sky. on your enemies. That's heavy. He didn't just do it on one enemy. He did it on platoons. He had them begging. At the same time, he still was running from Jezebel, wishing for the death of his own life because he couldn't take it no more. Some serious faith, though. He had faith. That's the faith that we need. That's the faith we have to tap into. Look at the faith of Samson. Man, he took down the Philistines. Serious faith. We would call him a terrorist today, the way he took down the Philistines. But it was all his faith. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Assyria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Most High had given him deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Disease. Now, a leper, if you read Leviticus chapter 13, you're contagious as a leper as it's spreading. Once it's spreaded completely over your body, then you're considered a clean leper. You could go out amongst the people. All right. And we could get into that about leprosy, how long it takes for that to spread over your body or dissipate. Sometimes it disappears. Verse 2, and the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel, a little maid. This is the little woman, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, with the Most High my power were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he will recover him of his leprosy. This woman knew of this prophet and said, you have leprosy. I know somebody could cure you. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. Recognize what he took. He took gold, silver, and extra clothes. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, now, when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, am I God? Am I a power to kill and to make alive, that this man doeth sin unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. The king was like, I can't do this. The king of Israel said, I ain't got that kind of power. He thought it was a mockery. Verse 8, and it was so when Elisha, the man of the Most High, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. This is Elisha talking, the prophet. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, go and wash in Jordan 7 times. That 7 is significant. 7 days to quarantine. He said, dip 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was angry and went away and said, behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Most High, his power, and strike his hand over the place to recover. He wanted to see him come out and do some things with his hands. You know what I mean? Elisha didn't even come out the house. He sent his servant to go to Naaman to tell him to go dip 7 times in the water. That's how powerful his faith was. He didn't even have to go out the house. He probably was in there sewing or doing something, reading the scriptures or something. So it pissed off this man because he didn't even come out to see him. Verse 12, are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. So that water was dirty looking. He said, man, can I just go in this other river? These other 2 rivers that's cleaner than that? And the servants came near and spoke unto him and said, my father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then when he saith to thee, wash and be clean? Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan. He went and did it, according to the saying of the man of the Most High. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child. Look at that. He got new skin. Because if you have leprosy, your skin is all rough and, it's just ashy. Just think of some skin that's been kind of just abrased. Leprosy causes your skin to be really rough and nasty looking. And he was clean. And he returned to the man of the Most High, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no other power on all the earth but in Israel. Now, therefore, I pray you, take a blessing of thy servant. But he said, As the Most High liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. He didn't even want to take a gift from this man. All that silver and gold and clothing that he had, he was like, man, I don't want it. Your faith cured you. Yahushua was doing the same thing. And Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules, burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Most High. And this thing, y'all have to listen to this. I'm reading more of it because it has something dealing with what we're talking about, the quarantine. Came back out, he had faith and he got healed. But now you're going to see something more wicked as far as that quarantine goes. In this thing, the Most High pardon thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship thee there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Most High pardon thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. But Gehazi, this guy right here is a trip. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of the Most High, said, Behold, my master hath spread Naaman, this Syrian, in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. He didn't take none of his gold, silver. But as the Most High liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him. So this dude was evil. He working up under Elisha as an assistant. He goes and runs to this man to try to take over this gold and silver. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? And he said, Yeah, all is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, even now there become to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver. On top of that, he was lying. And 2 changes of garments. And Naaman said, Be content, take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants. And they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house. He took it, and he let the men go, and they departed. So he took it off their hands. Verse 25, But he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no whither. And he said unto him, Went not mine heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? So Elisha saw him run after this man the whole time. He sat up there and lied and said he didn't go. But Elisha saw him run after this man. Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants? Not that time. The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto you, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow. You see that? Here's one man who wanted to get healed, got the leprosy off of him because of his faith. And here's another man who wanted the riches during the time of captivity and lied to get it. And this leprosy, this illness, this disease fell upon him. Forever. His seeds have leprosy, white as snow. So for him to be white as snow, a clean leper, you ever see a so-called white man? They're considered clean lepers. So in the midst of these lepers, these clean lepers, these Edomites, we have some brothers who are Israelites based on Naaman. He has generations and generations mixed in. Most Israelites won't talk about this, but there are some white people who are actually Israelites based on this curse that just fell upon this brother. Makes you wonder, huh? But we won't know. Won't know, but by the Spirit. So just so y'all see, just because y'all see a so-called white man, don't think that all the time that he is an Edomite. Same thing with so-called black and Latino and Indian men. You know what I mean? They may be Edomites in Indian clothing. All right. Double sleeving. All right. Let's go to, I just wanted y'all to see that because I didn't know if any of y'all had ever read about Naaman. Serious thing about quarantining. Let's go to Titus 3 and 10. So some things you may run from, but just by your actions, you could bring that damn disease on you. Just by your wicked ways, it could cleave to you. That's why during these times, we have to keep the commandments. We have to follow the Most High's word to the best we can. Titus chapter 3, verse 10. Titus 3 and 10. A man that is a heretic, after the first and second admonition, reject. So you tell him once, you tell him twice. If he don't want to believe, then you reject him. Don't even bother telling him no more. You already told him twice. Don't waste your time. Verse 11. Knowing that he that is such is subverted and sinneth, being condemned of himself. Right? You told him twice. You continue seeing him doing sinful things, and he keep asking you, I don't know why this is happening to me. You ain't got to tell him no more. You already told him twice. Now, let's see the physical quarantine now. Let's go to Leviticus 13. Let's see what the physical quarantine requires. Leviticus chapter 13 and 45. Leviticus 13 and 45. Leviticus 13 and 45. And the leprosy was big back then. That was one of the biggest contagious diseases out there back then. They didn't have the type of stuff we had today, allergies and all that crazy stuff that's generated off of man-made stuff. But they did have leprosy. Verse 44. Verse 45, and the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent. This is what they had to do if they had leprosy. They had to let everybody know they had leprosy, because leprosy could form in other places where you couldn't see. It could be on your stomach. It could be on your chest. So you had to do something. You had to rip your clothes so everybody knew that you had leprosy. And his head bare, and so you had to cut your hair off, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean, when you would go around other people just to protect them. Just like if somebody has COVID-19 today, they start coughing. You be like, man, put your face mask on. And they still don't tell you that they got COVID-19. Like how many of y'all seen that bus driver that got killed? He died from COVID-19. The lady gets on his bus and she's just coughing without covering her mouth. The bus driver tells her to get off his bus. And she refuses to get off. She just keeps coughing. And then he comes out and makes a YouTube video. And he talks about how messy she was coughing during these times of COVID-19.
This bus driver wanted to tell the nation something important.
I feel violated.
He posted this video after a female passenger boarded his bus in Detroit and coughed.
For you to get on the bus and stand on the bus and cough several times without covering up your mouth, and you know that we in the middle of a pandemic, that lets me know that some folks don't care
4 days after he made the video, Jason Hargrove tested positive for coronavirus. He died on April 1st.
It's folks dying from this.
And then he dies 2 days later. He actually died 2 days later after this woman coughed all over him. It's crazy. So back in those days, in order to quarantine, they would put something over their mouth as well. As you see here, it says, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip. Right? They would cover their mouth. So let's read 46. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. See that? So this is in likeness of what we're going through today. Let's go to, let's read on down. Verse 47. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a wooden garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the warp or woof of linen or of woolen, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin. And if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment or in the skin, I guess it was oozing out. Wow. Either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin is a plague of leprosy, and shall be showed unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague and shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. See how they were quarantined? They make that person go somewhere 7 days. Back in those days, they also had a cave where people had to go in quarantine. You know, like we have gyms and hospitals and things like that. Back in those days, they would set up a whole cave where everybody who had leprosy, they would go to that area and they would stay in that area until the priest would come and examine them. And so that was a form of quarantining. Let's go to verse 53. And if the priest shall look and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is. And she or he shall shut it up 7 days more. That's your 14 days. A lot of us are quarantining 14 days. This is 7 days more. And they did all diseases like this, contagious diseases like this in the Bible days. Let's go to Numbers chapter 12 and 5. Remember Miriam? Remember Moses' sister? Remember the Most High cursed her for talking smack? Let's go to Numbers chapter 12 and let's read verse 1. I want y'all to know the reason for her getting this plague on her. Verse 1. And Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. Moses married an Ethiopian woman, someone not an Israelite. For he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, hath the Most High indeed spoken only by Moses? They were ganging up on him, his brother and sister, saying, Most High ain't just using you to speak to the people. You know how brother and sister fight? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Most High heard it? Now the man was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. Moses was a very meek man, meaning he didn't get mad quickly. He wasn't the type of man to just get upset. And the Most High spoke suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, Come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. Listen. And the Most High came down in a pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the power, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. He chose Moses to speak to the people, not Aaron and Miriam. With him will I speak my mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and in the similitude of the Most High shall he behold. Wherefore, then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses. Here he is teaching the people, and his brother and sister are talking bad about him. So look at what he do to her. Verse 9. And the anger of the Most High was kindled against him, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. So Miriam wasn't black no more, she was white. And Aaron, because she was a Levite, you know how dark the Levites are. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. See that? And Aaron said unto Moses, why did he constrict her and not Aaron? Why? Anybody know? You can speak on this. Why did Miriam catch leprosy and not Aaron? Any takers on this? One at a time. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm guessing this is Reggie Gabar. I'm guessing that she was out of order. You know, she wasn't supposed to be speaking in the first place. What precept can we get to show that she was out of order? I think it's 1 Corinthians chapter 11.
Let's get it real quick and we'll come right back. All right. 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. We'll start at 2. It says, Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ, Hamashiach, is the Most High. So he's telling you the order of things. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. But every woman praying or prophesying with her head uncovered, dishonoreth her head. For that is even all one as if she were shaven. It doesn't say that she had her head covered. So you can't speculate like that. So it's talking about the order of things. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. All right. So that's one way of looking at it. But here's another order. 1 Corinthians 14 and 33. First Corinthians 14:33, it says, For the Most High is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Right? So what was going on there? Confusion. As in all churches of the saints. It says, Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. So you're dealing with some high-powered men right here. You're dealing with Moses, one that was beloved by the Most High. And Aaron was this high priest. What order did Miriam fit in that? She was just a sister. So Moses and Aaron were over all the congregation of the people. So here she is fighting against her brothers as if they were still children. They're not children. They're not children. And this is why that plague came on her. Let's go back to Numbers chapter 12, verse 11. And it says, And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my power, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. He said, we have sinned. We went back to our children's state of mind, fighting against each other like when we were kids. Let her not be as one dead. He's pleading for her not to be leprous. It says, let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Most High, saying, heal her now, O power, I beseech you. He was begging the Most High to heal his sister. And the Most High said unto Moses, saying, heal her now, O power, I beseech thee. And the Most High said, Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that, let her be received in again. So what was going on? She had to go into quarantine because she got leprosy. Everybody who got a disease or a form of leprosy had to be quarantined. So even Miriam couldn't escape that. She had to go into that quarantine. So certain diseases are very contagious. When a person would be quarantined in those days, they would be shut up even from their parents and family members until they were completely healed. It's all protecting the church in a safeguard position. All right, let's go to Romans 16 to 17 again. Romans chapter 16, verse 17. And it reads, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. So physically quarantining is the same thing. That's spiritual quarantining, putting them away. It's not that we don't love these brothers and sisters that have these different doctrines. It's just that they are contagious to us. You know what I mean? So we have to put them away until they come into the faith, till they have a decency, have a decent mind. It's not to cut them off. It's just they're just quarantining. When we quarantine, it assists us in our restoration. Some brothers and sisters need help in being restored, you know, such as those who are new in the faith, trying to find their way. Let's go to 2 Timothy. I'll give you another example. 2 Timothy chapter 2. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 25. It reads, in meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves, if the Most High peradventure or perhaps will give them repentance to the knowledge of the truth, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will. Right? Getting a plague on you is like a form of, basically, like we read earlier, when you don't keep the Most High's commandments, diseases will come upon you. The diseases of Egypt will come upon you. Spiritually, it's the same way. Physically, it's the same way. We're trying to tell you brothers that are quarantined, Satan is on you. He got you in a headlock. Quarantine yourself. Get yourself right. Believe in the Most High. Have faith in the Most High. Do what he tells you to do. When you're sick, that's what people do. They're trying to build your faith up, again, to get restored. So it's about consciousness, man, being pure and void of any offensive opinions. That's what it's all about. Because if it's not you, then someone else could be carried away by Satan, falling into a snare. Remember how the Pharisees always tried to entangle Hamashiach Yahushua. That was Satan, constantly trying to pull him away from the people, constantly trying to pull him away from doing miracles. That was all Satan. Okay, so he fought with Satan in the beginning of Matthew chapter 4 in the wilderness, but he kept fighting with Satan the whole time with his people. Like I said, all Israel ain't Israel. Let's go to John chapter 8. It's the same demons. Everything on the left-hand side has to be allowed by the Most High's right-hand side. The right-hand side can't get in the way of the left-hand side if the Most High deemed it. John chapter 8, verse 42. Yahushua said unto them, if the Most High were your Father, ye would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from the Most High. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? He's telling the Pharisees, why don't you understand what I'm telling you? Even because you cannot hear my word. Listen what he says next. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abide not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. See that? And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Which of you convinceth me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? They're all trying to say that he's in sin. Yahushua. That's Satan. That's like opposing him in everything that he's doing. That's good. Those brothers got to be quarantined away. You have to avoid them. All right. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we don't love these brothers and sisters who are ill. Nor does it mean that we could just cut them off. But, basically we're just trying to protect ourselves from the contagious ones. Romans 14:1. Let's go there. Romans 14:1. Him that is weak in the faith receive you, but not to doubtful disputations. See that? That's why we say be careful with inviting people to the Passover, to certain feast days, because you don't want to get into disputes over stupid things during the Most High's love days, holy days. These are feast days the Most High loves when we gather. That's why he says in Amos that he despised your feast days, because there's lots of disputations. People get together for the wrong reasons. He wants everybody to be in the same mind. When you read the book of Acts chapter 2, when all those Israelites went down for the Feast of Pentecost, they were all in the same mind. The Most High loved that. They weren't fighting each other. They all had the same mind. That's why the Spirit came down and moved upon them. See? See, when we accept someone to the Most High's table, we always have to consider the body. Always. Let's look at the Nazirite vow. Let's go to Numbers chapter 6. What is a Nazirite vow? Samson was a Nazirite. Being a Nazirite, you have to let your hair grow. Can't ever cut it unless the vow ended or you broke the vow. The Nazirites had to quarantine themselves from dead people. They had to quarantine themselves from those who drank wine. They had strict orders. Numbers chapter 6, verse 6. Numbers chapter 6, verse 6. It reads, all the days that he separated himself. No, let's go up. I want to get the full thing of a Nazarite. Let's start at verse 1. Numbers 6:1. And the Most High spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Most High. How many of y'all just thought the Nazarite vows for men? Most High is telling you it's for women too. They could just let their hair grow and grow and grow and never cut it. That's a Nazarite vow. He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine. Now we drink that apple cider vinegar, or vinegar of strong drink. Neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dry. But Yahushua, he was eating grapes all day, drinking wine all day. He took a Nazarite vow for 40 days and 40 nights when he went in the wilderness. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk. All the days of the vow of his generation or separation, there it is, there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled in the which he separated himself unto the Most High. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. All the days that he separated himself unto the Most High, he shall come at no dead body. See that? Can't even come around no dead bodies. No funerals. He shall not make himself unclean for his father or for his mother, for his brother or for his sister when they die. Because if you see nowadays people who are dying with this plague, who can show up to the funerals now? Just the parents and the brothers and sisters. In this particular case, if he took a Nazarite vow, he can't even go to the funeral. It was mom or dad. If they do, then they broke the vow and they got to shave their head off. Verse 4. All the days of his separation shall eat nothing that is made of the vine tree. Where am I at? I'm verse 6. 7. Let's go to verse 8. All the days of his separation he is holy unto the Most High. And if any man die very suddenly by him, and he have defiled the head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. What does that mean? A man died very suddenly by him. Somebody have a heart attack in front of him. That would make him unclean. Just that quick. He broke the vow. So that's why a lot of the Nazarites were loners. They didn't go around a lot of people. They teach the word, and then they depart. But they didn't just go around anybody or hang around anybody for that reason. They were loners. All the days of separation he is holy unto the Most High. If any man die very suddenly by him, and he hath defiled the head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the seventh day shall he shave it. And on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons to the priest, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, and make an atonement for him, for that he sinned by the dead, and shall hallow. A lot of brothers and sisters braid their hair, don't know what that means. We only did that in times of war and in times of mourning. Like this would be considered a time of war. Our women can't go get their hair done. Our men can't go get, they can't go get haircuts. This would be considered a time of war, a time of mourning. So you would braid your hair around this time. See? There's always meaning to something in the scriptures. You have to understand, we just didn't just do things. Let's see. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 10. Leviticus chapter 10, verse 6. And Moses said unto Aaron, and unto Eleazar, and unto Ithamar, his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest you die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Most High hath kindled. And ye shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. For the anointing oil of the Most High is upon you. And they did according to the word of the Most High. They shut themselves in. They were quarantining themselves from the rest of the people. And the Most High spoke unto Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. Now, they weren't Nazarites. They were Levite priests. The Levite priests didn't drink wine when they were teaching the people. It's just like us going out there to teach. We ain't going to drink no liquor before we go out and teach. The Most High ain't going to deal with us. When you teach the people, you see pastors in some of these churches, they be having a little flash in their suit in the inner pocket. And they be, who's to say what they do when they go, before they come out? They might take a swig of the doggone alcohol before they even get out there to start preaching. That's off. Most High said, don't even carry that with you. Exodus chapter 32. Exodus chapter 32, verse, we had rules, we had ordinances that we followed. We had quarantines, we had different titles. We had a lot of things going on in Israel, and we all respected that. Exodus chapter 32, verse 26. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on the Most High's side? Let him come unto me, and all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. This is a spiritual quarantine. This is when Moses came down from the mountain after talking with the Most High, and the children of Israel was sinning. And when he came down, he said this, who's on the Most High side? Whoever's on the Most High side, stand on my side. And he said unto them, thus saith the Most High of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. This was a civil war. They were killing their own people. Remember I said all Israel are not Israel. This is what they did. They had to wipe out that plague, and that plague was in the minds of our people. They still believed in other gods. Verse 28, and the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses. And there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moses has said, consecrate yourselves to the day of to the Most High, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. Can you imagine grabbing your sword because your son didn't believe the way you believe, or your brother or your father, and going through and slaying man and woman because of their belief? The Most High was living with them at that time. It's going to happen again when we go into the wilderness. It's going to happen again. Most High is going to do the separation. Your mind's got to be in order, man. It's got to be in order. It's got to be in order now before we get there. You got to forget about all these things that are here. You know, you got to prepare yourself for the kingdom that's coming, because he's not going to tolerate it when we get there. We got mercy now. We ain't going to have mercy no more then. You know, it's like preparing for a test. You can make mistakes on the practice test. It's okay. When you take the test, you got to pass the test. You can't fail it. And so that's what's going on. We're just taking practice tests. We're rehearsing the righteous acts. Passover, we're rehearsing it. It's not the actual test. We're rehearsing it. We're getting ready. All right. Brother Yahar, if you're there, can you explain for brothers and sisters who don't understand the new moon, how we came about putting it together? If you can, brother.
Shalom. And yeah, the way we came about the new moon is the way it's always been done in scriptural times. But I'm going to grab my calendar here while I'm going over this real briefly. Is that there's a lot of different sources that say when the new moon is. And a lot of those sources can cause deception, and it can cause inaccuracies amongst the children of Israel. Meaning we can be thinking some things that a new moon is, and we go by, the calendar that you may find is stored as a Gregorian calendar, and it'll have the new moon that's on there, and so forth. So how you get to the point what Smart One was inviting me to do is, when you look at the new moon, that's why you all may remember whenever I see the new moon, I take a photo of it and I send it out to the brothers and sisters that's on this conference call, but it is the actual observance of it. Because when you look on the calendar, the new moon may be the darkened moon, but that's the way a lot of calendars put it. They show that the new moon is when it's dark, when you can't see it. But when you observe the new moon, notice the word observe, the new moon, that means you have to see it with the naked eye. And so, therefore, getting to where we are right now on the calendar of time, and on the Most High's calendar, when we look at the new moon for the first month of the year, that would be Abib, or either Nisan, depending on how you want to pronounce that. But the new moon was observed on the 25th of March. And that's very significant, brothers and sisters, because that's when you have to start counting days. As you look in Leviticus chapter 23, or you look in Exodus chapter 12, all that is very precise on when things happen, or when feast days are going to occur, the high holy days are going to actually occur. So That's how we established and agreed upon the actual start of the new month of the new year, was when the new moon was actually observed. And from that point, we can count our days, and that leads us to where we are. So I hope that answers the question. I go through in further detail I can, but
No, that's good. I just wanted them to hear, and also, if you watched the recent video I put out on feast days, I said that whenever you look at that moon, I observed the first glimmer of light. That is considered the first day, and you have to put yourself in the minds of our people 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. They were out there every day. They planted their crops based on the new moon cycles, the phases of the moon. And so you also have to think about when they read things, when they read literature, when they wrote things on scrolls, they wrote from right to left, not left from right, left to right like we do here in the United States. So when you look at the moon, when it's waxing means to grow. Okay, and so when you first see that slither, it must be on the right side. That's the strong side. And that's how you know that it's about to start waxing, getting bigger and bigger. And when it starts to decrease in its perfection, it gets smaller and smaller. And so, like Brother Yahar says, based on the observance of the moon. Now, people say, well, it's 29.5 days. Yeah, if you read the book of the Sefer, it tells you that too. It tells you it's 29 days. But you go off of the first day that we see. All right, to produce the end of the moon when the moon is dark. That's how you would get that 29 days, because you're counting the whole time. Also, why was the moon put up in the heavens anyway? Do we necessarily need a moon in the sky? Why was it ever put there? For a lot of you brothers and sisters who don't know, in the book of Ecclesiasticus, the first scripture the Most High says, when we look at it, let's go to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 43. Now I'm just going to touch on this because we already did this many a times. It's chapter 43, verse 6. It says, he made the moon also to serve in her season. All right, so the moon brings about seasons for a declaration of times, a sign of the world. A sign of the world. This is how you keep your days. Keep track of your days, your years, your months. That's the sign of the world. Verse 7. For the moon is the sign of feast. All right? Comma. A sign of feast. Stop. Pause. Sign of feast. Now, when you go to Leviticus chapter 23, like Brother Yahar was saying, feast days are very important to us. As a matter of fact, it is a law that we must follow. Feast days. It's called ceremonial laws. Leviticus 23, verse 1. And the Most High spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and saying to them concerning the feast of the Most High, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feast. Okay? And look at verse 4. These are the feasts of the Most High, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. That's why when we read Ecclesiasticus chapter 43, it starts with what? It's a sign of the world based on the seasons. And the next verse is talking about from the moon is the sign of the feast. The moon is not important. The feast days are important. In order to get to the feast days perfectly, you have to be able to number the days of the month and number the days of the year. So that's why it says from the moon is the sign of feast. Now, comma, feast is going to tell you when they land within that moon cycle. It says a light that decreaseth in her perfection. So when that moon is bright, that's around the times that we always have our feast days, because now it's decreasing in its perfection. So that's why when you read if you go through that feast day calendar I just put up, all the feast days are always around the 14th day or 15th day all the way to the 28th day. During those times of the month, the moon is decreasing in its perfection. The perfection is us keeping our feast days during those decreasing times of the moon. The month is called after her name, right? So it's the reason why they put month in this verse and moon in the 7th verse, because he's telling you the month, the beginning of the month is going to be what he's about to say. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. So he's telling you at the beginning of every month, it's going to increase wonderfully. And changing, meaning phases. It's going through the phases. And part of that phase is what? A full moon is going to come in during those 3 to 4 different phases. So it's elementary if you understand the scriptures and you understand gardening and farming and animals. You understand it. And seasons. Okay, so it can never be, so the new moon could never be a full moon. Impossible. That doctrine has been a new doctrine that's been created in the earth in the last 2 to 3 years. And most of the brothers who have created that are from big cities and have never been farmers. So that's why they have a farmer's almanac. For people who actually farm, they follow that moon sequence. Okay, and so that's why I wanted to just go over that so you brothers understand how we put together that calendar. It's based on calculations of days, weeks, months, and years, and the feast days. All right, are there any other questions, statements, or comments?
I just want to add back to the lesson, the topic, that because when you were talking about leprosy and Miriam with Aaron, and when we talked about Naaman, there was also an account in Yahweh Shah was here in dealing with the leper.
Okay.
And it's interesting when you were talking about that, you will see that Yahweh Shah did the same thing that we were reading about by putting him in quarantine. Even though he had fully healed this leper, he still followed the way of quarantine after. And that's in Mark chapter 1 is where it is.
Okay.
Verse 40 through 44. And you can read it or I can read it.
Okay.
Just prefer.
Let me get it. The book of Mark, chapter 1. Book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 40. And there came a leper to him, beseeching him, and kneeling down to him, and saying unto him, If thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Yahushua, moved with compassion, put forth his hand, and touched him, and saith unto him, I will be thou cleansed. I will, be you cleansed. And as soon as he had spoken, immediately the leprosy departed from him, and he was clean. And he straightly charged him, and forthwith sent him away, and saith unto him, See thou say nothing to any man, but go thy way, show thyself to the priests, and offer for thy cleansing those things which Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. But he went out and began to publish it much, and to blast abroad the matter, insomuch that Yahushua could no more openly enter into the city, but was without in desert places, and they came to him from every quarter. Now, he was healing all types of people with leprosy, people with ailments, people with contagious diseases and sicknesses.
But he always, with the lepers, he would always send back to that Leviticus 14 part on how to deal with lepers, where they have to go back to the priest.
God.
Because he directed them on that. So that's the point I wanted to bring out.
Right.
Is, that it was consistent with, what we had went over before, even though they were here, they still had to follow that. That was the order for the cleansing of lepers.
Right.
And the quarantine portion.
Yeah, because I'm just speculating. I'm saying this because I know that the priests kept records on Israel, and by them every Shabbat they would light the incense. The people would come to pray. That was a big thing. People would meet once a month there, or four times a month there, and I would just think that the priest would probably let everybody know that this person is cleansed. He's clean. Don't be afraid of this person. It's just my speculations, but word had to get out some kind of way so people wouldn't be in fear of a person coming back. Because back in those days, word of mouth was everything. So people gossip. So coming from the priest's lips would actually comfort people that the person was healed. Yeah. Any questions, statements, comments anymore? Good information.
It's just what's the title of the video?
It's called Biblical Feast Days and Holy Days.
Okay.
Yeah. I can send it to you if you want. Yeah.
All right. You said that. Okay.
Hey, another thing too, with this brother being on the line, this brother right here is 3rd degree black belt. 3rd degree. Yeah. Now this brother has been around our classes for a while and been out there speaking with us. If anybody knows about health, it's this brother. For him to say something like, to build up your immune system, work out 20 minutes, take heed to that and do it. You know what I mean? Because it's going to benefit you. Walking around in place in your room or something, do some form of exercise. Because the thing with Israel is we tell people till we blue in the face to do certain things to benefit themselves, and they don't take heed to it. It's just like the prophets, when they would prophesy, people wouldn't listen to them. They tell them, and then it happened, they still don't remember. They still forget that they told them. Take heed to these things that brothers and sisters on this conference call are producing. It's all to our help.